Hello and welcome to this new live edition of TBT Talks with me, Steve Hoare. Joining me this week, I've got a load of guests really. I've gone for guys who support other teams, just basically catch up on how they think their team are performing so far in the league. You'll recognise some of the voices from a previous show we did after the transfer window, and we've got a couple of new voices in as well. And we've got a Spurs fan as well, which we didn't have last time, which I think is interesting because Spurs have been fascinating to me so far this season. So anyway, let me introduce them. Representing Liverpool, as always, we've got Craig Ozzy Austin. Representing Arsenal is Dino Spyro. Representing Chelsea is Declan McCarthy. Representing Man City from the main Blues website, obviously, is Ben Watson. And then our two new guests, we've got Jas Duffer, who's going to be representing the Spurs contingent. And finally, Justice Junior is replacing Gaz Drinkwater from the last show as our Man U supporter. So that's where we're up to. I think the best place to start really is what I presume top of the league team. It's Chelsea, isn't it? So Dec, I will come to you first. It couldn't have gone much better, really, could it, mate? Everything seems to go swimmingly for Chelsea so far.
Yeah, it's, I don't want to come across as big-headed at all, but it's around this kind of stage of the season, Steve, where and you'd have to agree, Chelsea play quite well. In previous years, we've always kind of started quite well. And it's not really kind of now where Chelsea fans are worrying about. It's maybe possibly next month, as I personally feel. Next month's gonna be a big month, but no, I do agree, Steve. It's quite swimmingly down here in London.
Yeah, it's gone well, and I'll whiz through with the other guests and say hello and introduce them before we get onto everything properly. So it's Ben Watson. Sorry, I think I said Ben. Sorry, I said Ben Watson. It's Ben Warner, who's our City fan. And Ben, how are you, mate? Things going okay for City so far?
Depends what your class is okay. I've been a bit worried for a couple of months since Chelsea signed Fabregas and Costa. I was thinking, right, well, this isn't our season because we only have a good year every 2 years. But I'm settled into a comparatively poor season, but I think it's going all right so far, considering the Stoke game and
honestly, mate,
a couple of injuries. Apart from that, it's going all right. Yeah,
there's always someone worse off, trust me. Speaking of someone who's had an indifferent start, Aussie Liverpool, hit and miss really. I'll talk to you in a minute about West Brom, but if you compare to some of the other guys in this chat, I think we've got quite a bit. Wasn't I'd say Justice later, quite a bit to be a little bit worried about, but there's a few positive signs shooting through.
I think we've got a lot more questions than we've got answers at the moment after our second half of last season. We were a bit spoilt, and expectations on Merseyside were probably a little bit too inflated if we're all honest, and we've had a less than overwhelming start to the season, but as you said, we got to win against West Brom, so hopefully we can kick on for them now.
I'd like to think so. Taking my unbiased head off for a second. Dino, I should have mentioned before, by the way, Dino runs the new Fresh Press website. Dino, do you want to just introduce the website and then have a little chat about I think Arsenal's season's gone so far?
Yeah, so new website covering the Bundesliga, which has been going for, actually, unlike most Fresh Press sites, it's more of a relaunch than it is starting from scratch. So it's been going for about a year now, actually, and yeah, I was struggling a bit with quite a few reasons, so thought giving it to the wing of Fresh Press alongside all the other sites like this site, of course, would be the best thing to do. Yeah.
Sorry, mate. Do you want to just tell the listeners the name?
Flares and Foosball. You can find it on Twitter, at Flares Foosball, with 2 S's. That is.
Beautiful. And Arsenal, mate. So what do you think? It's been a bit Arsenal, really, hasn't it? Some good things, some terrible things. Your manager losing his rag. It's been very Arsenal.
It just defines the term meh, really, if I'm honest. We've shown glimpses, namely games like the Galatasaray game, and even in that Chelsea game, we did show glimpses. I was expecting us to get even worse smashed, and we left Stamford Bridge with our heads held high to an extent, even though the scoreline didn't really show that. But yeah, Arsenal, our season on the whole, it hasn't been anything special. I think there has been improvements, but still drawing at home to Tottenham. No offence to the Tottenham fan who's here. At home to City, obviously City are a strong side, but the home ones are the ones you have to win. So a season that hasn't been concerning as too concerning, but hasn't been spectacular by any means.
Oh, well, I think someone's blowing a horn. Jas, I'll come to you, mate. As our Spurs fan, welcome to the show, first of all.
Thank you.
You've got, Spurs new manager again. That seems to be what Spurs do. How's it gone so far under Pochettino?
I think it's been an okay start. I think he's trying to find his best team so far. A bit different to when he was at Southampton. He didn't have a big squad to pick from. He's got a bigger squad now. I think he's trying to work out probably who his best players are, best team is. It's been difficult couple of games. West Brom, obviously, but then a good result against Arsenal away. I think everyone was expecting a bit of a beating when we went there, but turned out to be a good result for us. Defensively, we've been a lot stronger this season. It's just obviously up top where we're still struggling. Just don't know why the club hadn't signed a striker, and I think that's why a lot of fans are getting a bit frustrated.
Absolutely, mate. I can fully understand that. And finally, Justice, I'll come to you. Man United are the most mental team, I think, in terms of trying to predict exactly what's going on, because it looks like someone's, the front half is like someone's got a Ferrari, but the back end's like an old Ford Escort. It's
a bit chaotic at the moment. It's kind of weird watching this team develop because it's like a completely new team. So basically, you go into each match not knowing what will happen. But I think I'm really happy in general with how we seem to be improving. But I think our main problem is losing possession in midfield, and that really hurts us because it means we can never dominate games like you've seen Chelsea do when they've got on top. So we never really seem to be comfortable for long periods in a match, and I think that's why it looks like our defence are constantly under pressure. But I think once our team maybe gels, once Rooney and Herrera come back, they'll probably look better. But I'm expecting to get thrashed at Chelsea, even with all the Falcaos and Van Persies. I'm expecting to get thrashed because essentially they know how to close out and control a game, and we don't at this stage. But yeah, it's been a good start, I think.
Oh yeah, well, I think in terms of the point you've got, I think that's fair enough. Having said that, again, I'll speak to you in a bit, mate, about some of the results you've got, but I think we'll go back to the top and we'll go back to you, Deck, and Chelsea. Everyone's been very complimentary of your side, and rightly so. You've been fantastic. The only unbeaten team left in the league after 7 games. Obviously, you've got 19 points, just 6 wins and a draw, which obviously came via Frank Lampard, which is interesting. But Diego Costa and Cesc Fabregas look like they've basically been the cherry on top of the foundations that Mourinho built last year. That's what it looks like from the outside looking in? Is that how you would describe it?
Absolutely, Steve. I think you pretty much nailed it on the head there. Mourinho came in with a good philosophy last year, but as everyone will agree here, we just didn't have the creative midfielder. Now, the last time I was on here, I rambled on about a creative midfielder for ages, so I won't do that this time. But now we've got that, it just gives us such freedom. And I mean, even in games where it really does break my heart to watch, the Everton game, of course, at Goodison, where we really, possibly, you would say we didn't really play well, but on top we outscored, and this is where I think we're different compared to other teams, because of course, United could easily outscore a number of teams. Maybe they haven't proved it against teams such as Leicester, but they can easily outscore, but they concede a lot, and defensively I just don't think they're as strong as us. And defensively for Chelsea, it's been one of our key points. Now, everyone will say our biggest weakness, and I mean, it's very fine lining. Our only real weakness is, of course, our defence. We can get caught on the break. Terry's probably not one of the quickest players, but he's one of the smartest players. But yeah, Costa and Fabregas have definitely, without a doubt, been the biggest influence in maybe Chelsea, maybe the Premier League. I think it's something like 7 assists from Cesc Fabregas and 9 goals from Costa, and it puts us going into October in a very good position, Steve. But if I had to nail it on the head, it's not just a 2-man band. We've got such a selection of a team. I mean, personally, my favourite players, would be Ivanovic, Cesc Fabregas, Fabregas, Hazard, Costa, and they really are a real unit. I mean, all around the pitch, we've got fantastic players. So, although I do agree with you, Cesc Fabregas and Costa would definitely be the cherry on the cake, if you want to put it. But we've got a fantastic team all around. I mean, on the weekend, it's just fantastic when your keeper gets injured and who comes onto the pitch? Petr Cech, and it just shows the depth of the squad, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you bring in arguably the second or third best goalkeeper in the league on when your keeper gets injured, that's great. If that happened to us, we'd bring Brad Jones on us, wouldn't we? And well, less said about that, the better. I think, Oz, yeah.
Oh, God, heaven forbid we ever have to do that, mate. But
Yeah,
I don't want Mignolet in the goal either, so it's a tough question. Pass.
Yeah, well, we've got our fingers crossed for Victor Valdez coming in soon. But back to you, Deck. There's one player I really wanted to focus on, and it's a very Mourinho signing, and it happened in January, really, and not much got said about it at the time. But Nemanja Matic, I think, has been such a great signing for Chelsea. He's almost kind of doing the Makelele role, but he's doing it. He's a big physical presence, and he can nick the odd goal and stuff. But I think, like you said about United, who were weak defensively, and even yourselves, you've just a little bit of lack of pace there. The protection that Matic has given you, I think, has just been unbelievable, and I think he's going very unnoticed, and not many people are talking about him. But I think he's having a great season and a great impact on Chelsea.
Absolutely, Steve. He's, well, in my opinion, one of the most underrated players in let alone the Premier League. Probably one of the top 4 leagues in the world. I mean, he is massively underrated, and it just shows against Sporting Lisbon. When ridiculous amount of chances we had against Sporting, and it just didn't go our way. And that's football. We all have had a bad day where we've probably had 15 plus shots, maybe in a half, and still haven't seen the back of the net. And it was just a brilliant set piece. And that's the thing with Chelsea at the moment. Like, Matic just gives you a plan B. If the game's not going the way, result back to plan B football, go for the set pieces, hit the corners, hit the free kicks. And Chelsea are very strong in the air. I mean, if you just look at the whole team, we're very big, we're very strong and tall. And not many teams can give that. I mean, you look at such teams like Swansea, if the game doesn't go their way, they really have to result in a completely different system, because they can't give the set piece, they can't give the corner. Where Chelsea are quite lucky and give themselves a plan B, and Matic helps out. He pulls the strings in the team, and it gives the freedom for Fabregas to do all the running then. Because if you actually watch Matic, it doesn't look like he's doing a lot of running, but really behind the scenes he's doing a lot of the grimy, the dirty work that he doesn't get into the back papers, because it's what you would call like fast media, and but Matic is without a doubt one of the key players in the team. But he's and I do agree, Steve, he's a very unsung hero of the team. I can't really give him enough credit, to be honest. Obviously, we hope this carries on for the rest of the season. But you've got Ramirez coming into the side now, who's getting a few assists, who brings pace to the team. I don't think he wants to be a final 20-minute man. I think he wants to break into that team. But it's just the same old Chelsea. Where do you play with these players? And I think Matic just gives that stability as well. So I agree with Mourinho picking him over Ramirez.
Absolutely, mate. I couldn't agree more. And I'll come back to you in a bit, mate, because I've got a few more things to ask you. But I'm going to move on. Just quickly, guys, anyone who's listening live, if you want to tweet in to @TheBibTheorists, any questions you might want to ask another fan of another team. I presume most people listening to this are Liverpool fans, and we've got a wide selection here. So if you want to tweet in, please do so if you're listening live, and I'll try and get it to the guys. Moving on, then I'll go to the league table says it's the second best team in the league at the moment. Bennett, your Manchester City side again. It's been a pretty strange start, really, but a good start. Okay, say just a one defeat. Obviously, a strange game at home to Stoke, but overall, the gap to Chelsea's it's 5 points already. It's not the end of the world, I don't think. Just sum up how you think Man City. You said before you're used to having one season on, one season off. The reigning champions, and you've got that target on your back, and you've got that to live up to. How do you think the team and the manager have done so far?
Well, that Stoke game, obviously, it's one we're forgetting because it wasn't a good game. But I think we had some good results, like that Chelsea game where with Lampard's late equaliser. That felt like a win, given we were playing against 12 men. And then Lampard scored. But yeah, and the Arsenal draw away, that's another good result. We've had some good results matched up with some poor results, both in the league and in the Champions League. But overall, it's not been as bad as I might have thought it would have been after that Stoke game.
Yeah, I think you're right there, mate. But I'm just looking I'm just basically got the league table up here, but basically the difference I'm looking between yourselves and Chelsea. Both teams have let 7 goals in, but Chelsea have scored 21, whereas City have only scored 14, and that's a bit unlike City last year. You were beating teams, 4-5-6-0, weren't you? You were really thrashing teams, and I'm just looking at the results so far, and obviously you put 4 past Hull away. You obviously put 3 past Liverpool, which wasn't nice to see at the time, but you're not really, blowing teams away in the same manner that you did last year. Is there a reason for that?
Well, obviously that's in that Stoke game, which I don't like to keep going back to. We lost Fernando for like a month or more, and we really missed him in September. You could see it when he came back and came on against Villa, that he just broke up the counter-attacks. He allowed us to go forward, and that is why we scored those 2 goals. I think he's a defensive midfielder, but he's a big part of the team, and we missed him, and that's possibly part of the reason why we've not scored as many goals as as Chelsea, or as we would have done it in this run of games last season.
And I'm just, again, mate, I've done a little bit of research on a few forums and a bit of Twitter and whatever. And I've noticed Yaya Touré's been a little bit of a divisive figure in that. He's obviously brilliant, and when he wants to dominate games, he has done, and he scored again, didn't he, against Aston Villa. But it seems like he's been catching a little bit of criticism. Is that right? I mean, that's just the impression I've got.
He's not had the best last few games. Like Bayern away, the games coming after that, he didn't put the effort in, and he got rightly criticised for it. But I have a feeling that if there hadn't been all that talk of him wanting to leave and him wanting a birthday cake, which isn't true, and anyone who believes that doesn't watch football. But if that whole thing hadn't happened, I don't think he'd get as much criticism, but he's deserved at least some of what he's got, but maybe not all of it. And I think he's looking better. He's looking better, and he's looking like he's putting more effort in now, like he did against Villa on Saturday. Yeah,
the Villa game was an interesting one because Villa have been a bit of a difficult team. I know Arsenal got them when all the players had the shits, but other than that, they've tested a few teams. They tested us. They beat us at home, for example, and that performance there reminded me of a team that could go on and win the title because it was a dog game. It was difficult, but then you scored 2 late goals and basically get the 3 points that you probably deserved in truth, but it did look for a while like Villa were doing the job. So that must please you, that the fact that you're not blowing teams away, but you're still picking the points up despite playing about 60-70%, I imagine, of what your team's capable of.
Yeah, well, that Villa. Winning games great. Late on is great, and that Villa game, it was one of those games that we've seen a few times over the last few years where we play a lot of the football in their half eventually, but we just can't find the opening. It was looking like that'd be one of those games, but it was just and to score those 2 late goals, which were great goals by the way, it was a really pleasing feeling. But it's something I'd like to see us do a lot more in those sort of games where teams defend a lot and just shut us out and keep us outside the box, where we can't take many shots and we don't have many on target. Because it was like up to sort of the 70th minute or something against Villa, we'd had like 2 shots on target from like 9, or actually it might have been a few more. So that just wasn't good. And then we brought on Fernando, and again, who changed the game. He stopped those quick Villa counter-attacks, and we scored the 2 goals.
And very quickly before I move on, how good is David Silva? Because I think he is a wonderful player, and you must be so happy that you've got such a great player playing for you. I know you've got a team full of great players with you, Torres and companies, and Aguero and Zeko and Zabaleta. The list is endless, but David Silva for me sticks out because he is some player.
Oh, he's brilliant. That his second half on Saturday, it was just until he came off, it was brilliant. It was it's one of the best performances I've seen from him in a while. And sometimes he's had quiet games, and then he's done something really good. But on Saturday, he had one of those games where he looks really good, and then he does something fantastic. And he was if we took him off early, or if we hadn't played him on Saturday, we wouldn't have won. That's the end of it. He's just such a great player. He does stand out. Maybe not as much as some think he does, because Yaya's great, Maguire's great, Company's great, but he's a brilliant player. The 20 whatever million we got him for steal.
Absolutely, mate. I agree, and we're going to move on across the city to your nearest and dearest rivals, or the noisy neighbours, that's what they called you. Ferguson called you. Fourth in the league, it's Man United, and Justice. I know you're fourth, and that's great, and don't get me wrong, but with the fixtures that Man United had, especially playing, I think they played Swansea, Leicester, Burnley, didn't beat those teams. How do you feel? I thought at this stage you'd be top of the league just because of the fixtures, and it hasn't gone that way, has it?
Well, obviously, we would have liked to win those games, but in the beginning of the season, I think our team was genuinely I don't know how to probably say this, but our team was genuinely shit. We were playing Fletcher, we were starting Fletcher as our central midfielder, and Herrera, who, for all the skill he possesses, wasn't really match fit, and Van Gaal said that himself. At points we were playing Ashley Young left back. I think in the first game we started Lingard right wing back. So our team was actually genuinely poor, and so losing the points in those games doesn't necessarily bother me, because I can see now that we've changed formation. We've got our new signings in. We're basically a completely different team to how we were at the Swansea games. The Leicester result, it was quite hard to take initially, but
I loved it.
I guess I took into account the fact that it was a bit of a freak result, because I don't think it's humanly possible to defend that badly on a consistent basis. I think now I was quite pleased we beat Everton, because they are a side that tend to do quite well in big games. I know they beat Arsenal nearly every time. They put City under pressure. They even troubled Chelsea this year. I think it was a sign of how much we've improved since the Swansea and the Burnley games at the beginning of the season. And I think we'll just go from strength to strength eventually when the team gels.
Yeah, I'm just interested about the gel, because you mentioned there the change in formation, and for a while the manager was adamant, you were going to play this 3-5-2, and you didn't have enough centre half. I don't think the centre halves were good enough. I know no matter who was fit, but he has moved away from that pretty sharpish now. Is that a surprise, or is that something that you were always expecting anyway?
No, I think with LVG, he's a manager I trust to notice when something isn't working and change it. I think the issue was literally just personnel, for the Swansea game, for instance. I keep referring to it, but I don't think we had a left back or a right back fit. So yeah, it's a bit difficult if you're trying to play young left back. I know he's basically just trying to get around that, and I think that's partly what eventually cost us with the Sigurdsson goal, and that ended up being the winner. But I think the diamond, I'm not personally that big a fan, because it means it's much harder for us to dominate in midfield and control games. And I think that might be a problem later in the season. But
I'm just thinking, sorry mate, sorry to cut you off there, but Wayne Rooney's been suspended now, and you're going to miss a couple of games. Are Man United a better team when Wayne Rooney isn't playing? Because I think Matt is great, and it seems to be he's the one who's making way for the ridiculous depth of talent that you've got up front, and it seems like Matt is the one who's missing out. But I know he's your captain and he's the skipper, but I'll ask the question: Are you better without Wayne Rooney, or are you better with him in the team?
In short, I think we're better with him. People talk about Matters. I think he had 8 goals in 10 games up until the last game. he hasn't played well at all. He's got goals in games we're winning 3-0 already, and he's got a couple of free kicks, but I don't think his general play has been quite poor, really. And the same with RVP, I don't think he's played well for about 18 months. And I think people tend, like with Wayne Rooney, he's the player that's most in the spotlight in this country, along with maybe Mesut Ozil. So whenever there's an issue over whether he's undroppable, whether he can't be dropped, then people tend to maybe get on his back a bit. But I genuinely think, from a purely footballing perspective, that we are better with Wayne Rooney inside.
No, that's interesting, mate. And before I move on, and I will come back to you later on, don't worry, but I want to talk about Di Maria, because, again, when you signed him, I was thinking, Man United signed another striker when they really could do with, or another attacker when they really could do with a defender, but having watched him, I saw him against Leicester, that goal was ridiculous. He was good against Everton. He looks like he could be a really top Man United player for years to come if he hangs around, because he's as good a signing or as good a player I've seen brought into this league for quite some time.
Well, yeah, there's not much more to say. I think he's really the spark that we haven't had since Ronaldo left and we brought in fucking Antonio Valencia. I think he provides something that's so different in midfield to what anyone else in the team can provide, and also I think he provides quite a key balance in midfield. With his, obviously he gets forward, but obviously he tracks back as well. And him and Herrera as a sort of pivot in midfield, that's quite a tenacious pivot, and it allows us to make sure that we're not too weak defensively in midfield, as well as be quite strong in attack as well. So I'm quite happy in terms of all attacking aspects at United at the moment.
Absolutely, mate. Again, attacking wise, I don't think you've got many qualms. But Jas, I'm going to come on to you and do a little bit about Spurs. A very strange season, I think, for Spurs. You've basically, you've won decent, won a couple of good games, but the odd draw. But then we hammered you just about scraped by West Ham. I think then you battered QPR, and then we battered you. It's been that kind of season, hasn't it, mate? Very, very inconsistent, which kind of surprised me from a Pochettino side, because I thought he'd come in and shore you up and maybe scrape a few 1-0s until he really bossed it. But it's been you've battered a few and then you've took a hiding yourself. It has been, again, very roller coaster like.
Yeah, I think like a lot of the other teams, it's been a lot of inconsistency. It's been highs and lows. Yeah, against West Ham, the first game we battled it out down to 10 men. It's always good to go there and take a result, win 1-0. QPR, gave them an absolute beating, but looking at the way they're playing now this season, doesn't look so great now. At the time, it was wonderful. But then, come the Liverpool game, took another beating from them, which is getting a bit frustrating now.
I love it, mate, personally. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I'm quite a fan of
that. Sunderland, conceding at the end, 2-2, which, can be a good result going away from home, but we should be going there and beating teams like them. West Brom, absolute dire, worst performance a lot of fans said that they've seen in years. And then the first 40 minutes in the cup game against Forest, until we equalise, then we sort of up the game. But you're playing a lower division team. You should be doing what City have done for years and just batter teams off the park. And then obviously Arsenal, where I think a lot of fans were expecting us to take a proper beating. We ground out a result, played really well. That was a high. And then against Southampton, the game we dug deep, and I think that's been a difference with our team this season. We've digging out results, toughing it out, which we haven't the last season or two, where we go goal down and we end up getting hammered. But defensively, we've been a lot stronger this season, which is a bit unusual for Spurs. It's going forward and getting the goals, which is what we were doing under Harry.
Yeah, I'm just looking at your top scorer is Chadley with 4. You got Dyer's got 2. I think Eriksen's got 2 as well. You like you did mention earlier about your centre forwards. I think Harry Kane's got a couple, but I think are they European goals or are they league goals? I think he's got 1 in the league and 1 in the League Cup. Sorry, but and obviously Adebayor's got one in the league as well, and Soldado's got one in the League Cup. It's kind of, you're not getting your goals from your strikers, and that must be a frustration, like you said, especially when the manager chose not to replace Jermaine Defoe pretty much.
Yeah, I think the decision to let Defoe go and not replace him was very strange. But I think maybe they were thinking Kane's going to step up a bit, and he seems to be making his mark on the team slowly. But you expect that with somebody coming from the under 21s. Adebayor, absolutely frustrating player. Don't know what he's doing there, to be honest. Plays when he wants to, or it seems to play when he wants to prove a point. When he came back, when Sherwood brought him back into the team after AVB threw him out, he was trying to prove a point. He done that, and then he's gone back to his normal lazy self. Soldado, I think it's hard on him, tough on him. I don't think we play the football that he's used to, or his style. He's a box player, but we don't put the ball in the box for him enough. It's all outside the box, tippy-tappy, try and play it through the middle, which isn't his way. He needs crosses into the box, and I think if that happens, he'll get goals. But no, we need a proven goal scorer. I think he showed when Bale was there. Strikers then weren't even performing because it was Bale getting the goals, and he pulled us out of a few tough corners situations.
Definitely, mate, and Liverpool are in the same boat now, having lost a star player. It can be difficult. I want to talk to you a little bit about Chadley. Again, he was a bit of a fringe player last season. It was fair to say you see him at times. He didn't always get a game, but he's featured quite a lot this season, and he's got his goals. And I must admit, when I first saw this, the teams that Spurs have been putting out, I wouldn't always expect him to play, but he's earned his place, and he's played really well. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, he has. I mean, he's improved. I think the problem was, like you guys are facing this season, we signed too many players last year. For maybe beat Sherwood, I don't think anyone knew where to play anyone, and the players weren't settled. But Chadley seems to have got himself down, put his head down, worked his way into the team, and he's chipped in with the goals. I think what we're doing is behind the striker, you've got Chadley, Eriksson, Lamela, and between them rotating their positions, Chadley popping up behind the striker, getting the goals. There have been fringe players from last year who have definitely improved. Chadley, Rose, Norton, defensively, them two have improved. So I think, some of the fringe players are starting to slowly show from last season what they can do. Obviously Lamela, come back from injury, he's also starting to show, why we paid so much money for him.
Absolutely, mate, I agree. And actually, I'll come back to you in a bit, but I'm just going to move on and get a quick talk. Dino, if I said to Dean, if I said to you, sorry, mate, you're having a season where you're winning, you're winning home games and you're doing quite well in the home games. You're not doing great away from home. All your players are injured. It's a little bit Groundhog Day for Arsenal so far.
Well, yeah, I think I'd probably agree with that if I'm honest, because we've been. I think it's a case of Arsenal often, because if you look back in the seasons, we've always been at home a bit more assured, and we don't usually lose at home. We sometimes get held to a draw, like a frustrating 1-1 or 0-0, but it's not often that we'll lose at home. So I'd agree with that, to be honest. Yeah.
It is strange, mate, isn't it? You played 7 games. I think it's 2 wins. I think it was you beat Palace at home, right? And you went, and I mentioned again, Villa away, where their team weren't feeling too great. But I know you've had a couple of tough games. You've played Chelsea, haven't you? You've played City. You've had your derby against Spurs. You've been to Everton. So it hasn't been the easiest fixture list in the world. But 2 wins from 7, 4 draws. What do you think needs to click? Is it a case of injuries? Is it a case of bedding in players? What is it that is stopping Arsenal doing basically what Chelsea are doing, what City are doing? What's preventing that leap?
I think it's quite a few things put together, if I'm honest. Wenger tried a new system this season. I'm not sure why, because last season wasn't too bad. I know we finished 4th when we were looking to go for the title throughout the season. It was a bit of a frustrating end, but 4-2-3-1 was doing quite well. He decided this season that, despite the fact that it was flopping every game, as we can see with these results, 4-1-4-1 was the way forward, meaning that, in my opinion, our best player, Mesut Ozil, is being stuck on the wing, which is not his ideal position at all. And as a team, we were looking disjointed. But I think we're seeing improvements gradually with the Villa game, then the Galatasaray game. To be fair, the Villa game we played 4-2-3-1, which sort of shows. And I can see why Arsenal fans are getting a bit frustrated with it. But it can't just be solely down to that. I think it's also down to individual performances, injuries as well. I think we've got 9 players out at the moment. Ozil, today we found out that he's going to be out until maybe 2015, which is not the best news I've heard. Walcott obviously hasn't made an appearance this season, a vital player for us. Ramsey, who, having said this, has not been good this season at all compared to the previous season, has picked up an injury. So as a team, we've not clicked quite yet, but there are signs in recent weeks that we're not far off.
Injuries, mate. I'm going to talk about the Ozil injury. It is weird, hasn't it? Because again, and I think he's a wonderful player. Don't get me wrong, and he has shown glimpses. But if you look at, say, a Costa who's come into the league and tore it up, or I know Fabregas has done it at Chelsea. We've seen various players come in and Di Maria even at United. Ozil, for as good as a player he is, he has his end product isn't always there. It's always nice, isn't it? But there's never the goals or the assists that you want. Or am I again? Is that just me looking at stats and being a bit wrong?
I think he's even admitted that he's had a lot of adapting to do, and I think the English league is a unique league. It's a league that is not. If you go to Spain, if you go to Germany, if you go to France, it will not be the same as any country in Europe. Even it will be a different ballgame to England, because with England, firstly, we don't have that break, do we? And in Germany, where he started off his career, they had the winter break. Then in Spain, he was winning 5-0 every week with Real Madrid and passing the ball to Ronaldo and getting three assists a game. So he had it quite easy there. And he's come to Arsenal. Different mentality completely. At Madrid, he was a player that was efficient. At Arsenal, he's the player that's expected to go out there and win them a football match. And he's not done it for us, if I'm honest, but he's done it in his own way, which is exquisite movement. He's always in space. He's shown glimpses, as you say, but I still firmly think that the best is yet to come with Ozil, and I'm willing to be patient.
Yeah, mate, again, he's a fine player. I just think, like I say, it's just getting the players in the system right to suit him. Your main signing this summer, I'll talk about the two I want to talk about because I'm the host and I'll do what I want. Alexis Sanchez, again, there was talk he was going to go to Liverpool. Obviously, he chose to go to Arsenal. Fair enough. How's he settled in? I was listening today actually to BBC Radio, and the guy they were discussing, saying they don't think he's a wide player. He's not a wide forward, which I thought was odd because that's exactly what I thought he was. I don't think he's a 9, but how's he settling in so far? How's he doing?
No, he's certainly not a 9. I completely agree with you, but yeah, on the whole, I think he's settled in brilliantly. I think his game really does suit the English sort of way of playing. He's got, with that technical ability, he's got the work rate of someone. It's outstanding, really. I've been going to the Emirates for a good 8 years now since the first year it was opened, and I've never seen a player who runs around that much. It's actually unbelievable, and even off the ball, he's so intelligent that he's always looking for the ball in space, and he's always running in behind. And yeah, reverting to your question, I think he's settled in very well, considering coming from Spain is not always the easiest of transitions. And yeah, I think the fact that we signed Welbeck obviously shows that Wenger agrees with me that he's a wide man. I know Welbeck could be just an extra number because of our injuries up front, but yeah, he has been good. He has been good in my opinion. He's scored his goals. He's been involved in play. He's not shied away at all. He's impressed me so far, I must admit.
Yeah, so he was the next guy I want to talk about, Danny Welbeck. And I'll speak to Justice about him in a minute in terms of letting him go. I suppose it was a justified decision when they've signed who they signed, but how's he doing so far? Is he? I think I saw. Did he make a comment saying, that's what happens if you put me up, a striker up front after he scores his hat-trick or something? How's he doing? Because the criticism of Welbeck always was, a lack of goal scoring. Doesn't look like he's going to score, and I know he bagged the hat-trick in the Champions League. I think he's got 1 league goal as well. But do you think he's the man finally to lead Arsenal's as line? I know Giroud's out injured. I think Giroud's a good player personally, but is Welbeck the man now you can stick up front and think, right, we'll work around him and he will get us the goals we need?
Well, look, mate, we went into the transfer window looking for 2 positions. Like, this is excluding replacements, so that's excluding getting a right back for Senya, getting a keeper for Fabianski, and players like that, Vermaelen, Chambers, players like that. Anyway, so we went in needing a top-class striker and a top-class holding midfielder. That top-class striker, names like Falcao, who's obviously gone to United, Edinson Cavani, who's stayed at PSG. Just names of that ilk have been the players that were mentioned and that Arsenal fans are hoping for. And unfortunately, it hasn't materialised, and we got Welbeck. He's not going to be the player that smashes in goals in the elite Champions League nights, who wins you a game when you're at Chelsea away, like last weekend, and you need some inspiration. But he is a player that, with confidence, is a real nuisance. And like Sanchez, when he's not playing well, the fans are still going to take a liking to him because he's got that running around and putting down defenders and just wanting it more than the opposition. So it looks good in the eye, and he's got I don't know, there's something about him that's just likable, and I think it's settled in with the Arsenal fans. And also the hat-trick against Galatasaray helped massively because obviously, like you said, his goals have let him down, but he seems like what Walcott was a few years ago. So don't give him much time and he'll finish it in the corner, but then give him time and he has to think about it and usually misses it or hits it over. But Galatasaray, all 3 goals were goals that he had to think about and put in the corners and whatnot, and he nailed all 3 of them. So I think it's been a good start to his Arsenal career.
Cheers, Dean. I'll come back to you in a minute. I've got a few questions off the Twitter guys. Just very quickly, Danny Welbeck, what were your thoughts on letting him go to Arsenal? Was you a fan of him in general, or?
I was depressed on deadline day. I mean, you wouldn't believe it if you were a non-United fan. Like, you'd watch us sign Falcao, but then our fans would be crying, or not crying, but yeah, over Danny Welbeck. But I think he has something likable about him. I think he was right in terms of just being quite an honest, hard-working player. And obviously he'd come through the youth system, Mancunian born, etc., etc. And obviously all the fans loved him. But getting away from that, in terms of a football perspective, I think it's a good deal for both parties, in the sense that Arsenal got what they needed, in a sense that he's a striker who isn't Sonogo, and United managed to basically free up space for Falcao and get rid of Welbeck, who I think was getting quite upset and moaning a lot during the end of his United career, and there was a lot of talk about him leaving under Moyes as well. I think he was just that he wanted more game time, and he wanted game time at striker. So I think that it was a good deal for both sides at the end of the day in terms of football.
Cheers, just your phone doesn't have like ringing, doesn't it, mate? I'll let you go and see who's calling you at this time of night. Have a word. That's a bit late for a phone call. So Oz, I'll come to you. Unfortunately, Liverpool are the lowest in the league at the moment, but that'll change, mate. We know that. Don't worry. We're on goal difference with Arsenal. Below Arsenal on goal difference, and we'll catch them soon enough. We're mounting our ascent. We're planning it, but. If you sum up our season, mate, I know we've spoken on a few podcasts over the time, but again, you'd say it's been pretty average, hasn't it, at best, really?
Average has been kind to the start, mate, especially after the way we played towards the back end of last season. But Brendan Rodgers has said that himself, we've gone from a bolt to the blue season, which no one was expected, to a side that's basically back in transition, and a side that lost the 3rd best player in the world, in some people's opinion, in my opinion, probably the best player in the world, going on form from last season. But so we were obviously going to find it difficult, and we've signed, was it 9 or 10 players we've signed, and we've been ridiculously fucking hard done to with injuries, and to keep players no other than Daniel Sturridge, who's going to be the linchpin of the side and is there to score the goals for us. So it's been a stuttering start, hasn't it? We've had some glimpses of the football that we played last season, but a lot of it's been having to change the formations due to the amount of injuries we've got, and having to try and play all of our new players from the start of the season instead of having the opportunity to bring 1 or 2 in at a time. And we're just starting to see the best of some of the players we've brought in, and Albert Moreno and Adam Lallana's looking like he's going to be a really good signing. So the signs are promising, and I just hope after this ridiculous international break again that we manage to kick on and become the Liverpool that we know from last season.
Yeah, I think the break's got the right time for us, hasn't it, to try and get some players back fit. Just in the interest of time, really, we're going to move on a bit to asking the people on Twitter, sorry, sending questions in, which I'll get to. But before that, I was just one sign, and we can't focus on all 10. We've been there all day, and listeners to the show will have heard us talk about pretty much all of them. But I suppose the most decisive or divisive, again, it is Balotelli, isn't it, in the fact that he's obviously a very talented player. It's just, is he a very talented Liverpool player?
He's one that's more often than not he's split an opinion between the fans, mate, and a lot of people have got behind him and backed him, which is predominantly what Liverpool fans do. We always back the players who come in, and you can't see in Balotelli, mate, that he's trying to change himself, and he's trying to become a player that fits into a Liverpool system, because notoriously Mario Balotelli's got an opinion of him that he's a lazy footballer and he'll never give you 100% effort on the pitch and this, that and the other. But I've seen a side of Balotelli that I didn't know existed, mate, because I've never watched them in depth before, and never really watched them for 90 minutes until we've signed him. And he does put a lot more work in than people were willing to give him credit for. So the question, will he go on to become a good Liverpool player? It's still too early to tell. I think he's still trying to gain his match fitness, and the one really good game we did see from him was when he was up top with Daniel Sturridge against Spurs, when we seen signs of a really promising partnership. So to judge him yet is far too early for me. And is he going to be a player that goes on to score 15 to 20 goals a season? No, he won't. He made each double figures, but I think he'll bring a lot more to the players around him, and he'll create opportunities for the players around him.
I certainly hope so, mate. Certainly hope so. And what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to get to the Twitter questions. Thanks, guys. And I've got one more question to ask you at the end regarding the future and looking forward. But this one, basically, it's for all the guys. This one isn't for Ozzy or Dean, because it's about Arsenal and Liverpool, so I'm going to get neutral views. So Ben, Dec, Jas and Justice, I'll come to you one at a time. Basically, Basher on Twitter has asked a simple question, and Ben, you're up first. Who would you rather have in your team or your squad? Jack Wilshere or Jordan Henderson?
Jordan Henderson.
Dec, go on, you can answer the same question. Wilshere or Henderson for you?
Jack Wilshere.
1-1. Jas?
Bitterly on my behalf, it's going to be Henderson.
Henderson 2-1. And Justice?
Definitely Jack Wilshere.
Oh, for fuck's sake, 2-2. That's not what well, there you go, guys. It's a split decision. We'll keep the peace. The correct answer, by the way, was Jordan Henderson. Just to let you know. The next question comes from Dan Kennett, and I'll ask this to everyone. In fact, actually, Ben and Dec, I don't think this applies to you, because it's about finishing top 4, and I think your teams are pretty much guaranteed. Oz, I'll come to you first, mate. Dan's saying, which 2 clubs are your biggest concern about maybe pushing your team out the top 4?
Tough one. Arsenal, Manchester United, mate.
Yeah, I think. Dino, to you, mate, who do you think's most likely to challenge for those 3rd and 4th place spots, presuming City and Chelsea are going to finish top 2, which we think probably will happen?
If I'm honest, mate, I reckon I'd go for Everton and Southampton. They're both looking quite strong this season.
Yeah, no, I'm not having that. I'm not having that.
No, I'm kidding. Liverpool and United.
Liverpool United. Oh, a little bit of Spurs disrespect there. Jas, go on, fight back. Fight your corner.
My top 4, obviously you got City, Chelsea, probably Arsenal, and then either Liverpool or United for that 4th spot.
Do you think Spurs have got a chance?
No, not this season, definitely not. I think our best chance of Champions League is probably to try and win the Europa League.
Yeah, it's a good point actually. It isn't the worst tactic in the world to go and win that terrible competition. And finally, just this, I suppose fourth is Man United's aim after a shocking season. Is there any of these sides who do you think is your main rival for that in terms of if you think Chelsea and City are going to be nailed on top four finishes?
Arsenal and Tottenham.
I think there's some club rivalries going on here.
Is there any way of kicking him out, Steve?
Yeah, you might bin him off. I think as Keys, he said it was all just banter, and we'll move on from that. I hate Keys, he's a tit, and I hate that word as well. Okay, next question. I'll go along for everyone. I'm just after a one-word answer, guys, basically for time purposes. Mark says Liverpool fans have got a scapegoat. It's usually Glenn Johnson. So I think we'll agree with that. Do you think that's right? It's him or Lucas?
Yeah.
Yep,
Not more to add.
Yep. So if I go along with guys, I'm just going to ask for one name who your fans seem to really get on the case of. So Ben, who's the scapegoat when things go tits up for Man City? Who's the player?
Yeah, Torre.
Yeah, Torre. Interesting. Dino.
There's so many, mate. Can I give you two, please? Arteta and Ozil.
Arteta and Ozil. What about Flamini? He seems to get a bit of grief, doesn't he?
He's shit though, so it don't matter.
Oh, fair enough.
Can I throw Mignolet in for us as well, Steve?
Yep, get him in. Anyone else want to name some shit plays? Deck, I don't suppose you've got many.
I'm just thinking quite hard because, yeah, like you said, Steve, it's quite hard. I'd probably have to go John Terry just because I think there's only like 20 people in the country that really like him. It would probably have to be I'd say Terry.
Are they all skinheads? Are they all white skinheads? By any chance with great British bulldog tattoos?
I'm not going to comment on that, but
Don't be so stereotypical, Stephen.
I apologise.
It'd probably have to be Terry. I'd go Terry.
Terry, okay. Jas, who do the Spurs fans love to hate?
We've probably got a few as well, but Carl Norton, Danny Rose, Chadley.
Oh, really? Yeah, I think that's interesting. I didn't realise. I thought Chadley, again, inconsistency, I suppose, annoys. I suppose for Liverpool, it's the players who we know are good but keep playing shit. I think that's probably the case of a few of those. And Justice, I'm presuming it's just anyone who plays centre half.
Once upon a time it was Thomas Cleverley, but now it's Wayne Rooney, I think.
Rooney gets it, does he? What about these centre halves? Because they're all shit.
They are all shit, but they are usually injured anyway, so.
Oh yeah, fair enough. That's a good point. Actually, I forgot about that. Phil Jones, constantly injured, constantly pulling stupid faces. Again, everyone except Oz, and I'll start with you this time, Justice. If you could have one Liverpool player from your squad, and this is from Tim, who would you choose?
I have no idea. Probably Coutinho.
Coutinho, interesting. Jas, who would you take from Liverpool if you could pick any player?
Probably Sterling.
Yeah, it's a good choice. Deck, who would you fancy? I know your team is uber loaded, but there must be someone.
Probably have Brendan Rodgers back. No, I'm joking. If I had to pick someone, it'd probably be Sterling. Yeah.
Dino.
Purely for score purposes and where we're lacking, I'd probably have Daniel Sturridge.
That's probably the correct answer. I think Jas probably could have went for that one as well, considering the striker woes. And Ben, again, uber talented team and squad, but go on, we're giving you the chance to sign us one for Liverpool. Who would you take?
Sterling, because he's Sterling, or maybe Gerrard, because motivational stuff. He's a good leader that we don't really need, but I'd have him.
Honestly, Ben, I'm not going to lie, mate. Gerrard and Lampard's been done to death, and it really doesn't work. It really doesn't work. I can assure you of that.
I wouldn't turn down having both of them if they played for free.
That's yeah. Well, I can assure you that's not going to happen either. I think they both are rather fond of money. Dino, your mate Sam, I think you got this tweet as well. He said, "When the fuck is Wenger going to step aside, do the honourable thing, and stop holding us club back?" What do you think of
that? I don't really know what I think of that, if I'm honest.
Are you a Wenger fan? Are you happy with him?
I'm in the middle. I'm not going to commit to the so-called Wenger out brigade or the so-called Arsenal knows best or whatever those stupid stuff are. But yeah, I think for everything he's done with the club, like he came in and then goes and wins the title a couple of years later, like completely transformed it. It almost gives him a sort of right to go when he wants, in a way. And also, I don't think anyone else understands Arsenal Football Club as much as he does. And also, his loyalty after being offered jobs by the likes of Barca, Madrid, and Brazil national team gives him sort of as I said, the right to leave when he wants, and we should give loyalty back. So I completely am going to dodge the question, and he should not step aside, if that's all right.
No, that's fine, mate. You've just wasted minutes of our time, but we'll
Steve,
live it.
I've got one question. I've got one question for Dino. It's regarding Wenger as well. Him stepping aside. Isn't there something to do with he owns some sort of shares in the club as well?
Well, I'm not too sure, mate, but I wouldn't mind Wenger going on to take a different job at Arsenal if and when he finally stops being the gaffer. Like maybe he, I don't know, chief exec. No, not chief. I'm not even sure. Just something a bit higher to help out the new boss. But yeah. I hope that's true, actually.
That worked well with Ferguson and David Moyes, so yeah, sure, we'll move on. Josh has asked you, Ben. I'll come to you very quickly. He asked a simple question. David Silva, what makes him so good?
Everything bad. It'll be natural talent, players that are playing around him, experience, being Spanish.
Yeah, well, apart from the last World Cup, yeah, I'd go along with you there. Okay, this one's for everyone again. I'm going to go along the group, and I'll start with Ozzy. I'm going to start with you, mate, just because I feel like I haven't given you the love that you...
I feel so left out.
Yeah, I feel like you need the love that I often give you, and this time haven't. Top 3 players in the Premier League, if you were judging on the season so far, if you were listing a Ballon d'Or almost, or, top 3 league players so far. This is from James Bufton. He said, who would you choose? 1, 2, 3.
Costa, Fabregas, and to complete the Chelsea loving Matic.
I will come to Dino next.
Costa, the Spaniard in the middle of midfield, who I'd rather not say his name, and I don't know. I have to go with Matic. I'm sorry, but I don't know. Chelsea have just
Chelsea, right? Okay. Ben.
What? Just in the Premier League?
Yeah. So who's been the best 3 players in the league so far for you?
Costa, Fabregas, Aguero.
A little bit of home bias. I like that. Dec.
I'm going to go Costa, Fabregas, and Graziano Pele for Southampton. I think he's been fantastic this year.
Great shout.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, good shout. Jas, go on. I'll give you a heads up. Go on, Jas.
It's gonna have to be Costa, Fabregas, probably Hazard.
Again, yeah, another Chelsea lover. You can see who's top of the league, can't we? And Justice.
Silva, Di Maria, and Cesc.
Oh, no Costa.
No Diego Costa.
Oh, fair enough. I personally, I'm going to throw mine in. I'm going Costa, Fabregas, Di Maria. That will be my 3 anyway. No one asked me, but you know what? I felt like answering the question, and I'm sick of asking questions. Someone can talk to me. I will move on finally. A couple more, and then we'll start closing up. Emmett has asked Ben. This one's just for you. He's asked about Sami and Nasri. What is City missing him at all?
No, I mean he's been a really good player especially last season, but Milner's stepped up, Navas has stepped up, so we're not missing Nasri as much as we might have done last year.
Fair enough. Yeah, again, he's a good player, but when you've got a depth of talent, I suppose it's easy to compensate. Dec, I've got one for you, mate. This one's from Ray. I feel like a game show host or a TV host here with these quick fire, but Ray's asked your left backs. You've got Azpilicueta and you've got Philip Luis. Azpilicueta's getting the nod. Right decision, or would you prefer to see Luis in there maybe?
It's a good question actually. Cesar Azpilicueta's been fantastic. He's very consistent.
I think he's great. I think he's great.
And he plays so well alongside Cahill and Terry. I think the problem is at the moment with Azpilicueta playing so well, I think you've got to look at it from Mourinho's perspective. Why change it? Why move it? Like we mentioned earlier in the show about half an hour ago, it just shows the level and depth of the squad. But if I had to just nail it down, I would have to say it's the correct decision. Although I do think, even if Cesar Azpilicueta maybe had 2 or 3 bad games and we brung Felipe Luis in, I still think Mourinho's got a bit of a favourite in Azpilicueta. I think Mourinho's definitely took a shine to him, which is great because, Azpilicueta now finds himself in the Spanish national team, which some people still disagree with. Maybe Jordi Alba should be there, but it just shows how, consistent he is and consistently well he plays.
Yeah, he's just holding that seat for Alberto Moreno. Don't worry, anyway, I think he's great. I think Azpilicueta, again, another one of these Chelsea players who people just underestimate. I think he is just a fantastic player. Okay, this one's from a guy called Pot Noodler. Interesting name. I'm going to ask you in one word, and Dec, I'm going to start with you because you're manager. How would you describe Jose Mourinho in one word?
Oh, what a horrible question. That's a horrible one. I would have to probably say genius.
Genius. Okay. Justice, how would you describe Jose Mourinho in just one word?
Winner.
Jas?
It's a tough one. Tactical.
Tactics. Interesting. Dino?
Oh, how many swear words are we allowed? Like, are we allowed to?
Well, you're allowed to say one. You can say whatever you want, but it's got to be one word.
I don't want to go too far, so I'll just say bat.
I wasn't expecting that. That's quite funny. Ozzy, describe Jose Mourinho.
I'm going to take it that far. Cunt.
Yes, thank you, mate.
Bloody hell, you're gonna be banned off YouTube anyway. So nice knowing you guys. Ben, how would you describe Jose Mourinho?
Successful knob.
That's a hyphen. Oh, you want to
I had a
hyphenate? You've hyphenated. I'm not sure I'll allow it just because it was funny. Yeah, I think he's a massive tit, if I'm honest as well. But he wins, and that's fair enough. And
Steve,
I think.
can I ask you one question, considering you've been complaining about not being asked any questions?
Oh, do you know what? I love it. I'm sorry, yeah, Dec, I love it, mate. Yeah, I'm really eager to answer.
So, of course, Mario Balotelli is always a big talking point. If he's still not playing as well as we've previously seen him when it comes to the summer, will you kind of expect Brendan Rodgers just to cash in and get rid of him?
No, I don't think so. I think he's going to give him a chance. Again, I think the problem with Balotelli for me is that he needs a strike partner. He's clearly not suited to playing up front on his own. And when we haven't got Daniel Sturridge, he looks a different. He just looks a bit lost this season because he's not used to playing with him and he's not used to playing with the team. It's gone a bit hit and miss. I don't think we'd cash in after one summer. If he starts acting like a massive tit, off the field, I don't think he would. I don't think he does that. People over-egg that, but then maybe. But Rodgers, in fairness to Rodgers, he has in the past, he's bought players and then decided they're not good enough. Although not as high profile as him. I think Balotelli will do all right. I think he just needs help. I think he needs a strike partner with him. Thanks for the question. I really appreciate it.
Can I just jump in on that a sec?
Go on, Oz.
The question was if he's not going to perform, and do you think it seems to be a massive preconceived idea from fans of other teams who've never, for 90 minutes in depth, watched Mario Balotelli play, and he offers a lot more than people think. He's there to score goals, yeah, because he's a striker, but he works a lot harder for the team than what people give him credit. I'm not as disappointed with him as a lot of Liverpool fans seem to be, and I think up to now, I wouldn't say it's been an unsuccessful move in the slightest.
No, I think I agree with you, mate. I think if you look at goals, it's been a bit disappointing, but the team isn't playing well. So when the team isn't playing well, it's hard for your striker. Costa's coming on and fitted seamlessly into a great team. He's got Fabregas pinging him balls in over the top or around the corner, and he's got Hazard doing what Hazard does, and Chelsea have just been efficient and Liverpool haven't. So yeah, maybe. But if he was terrible, Dec, if he was really, really terrible, I think Rodgers has got the balls to move him on. I just don't see it happening, if I'm honest. Final question before we head off. Ben, where do you think Man City look after we said before the season where we think they're going to start? Has anything changed your mind, and what are you thinking going forward?
Second. Chelsea are just too good.
Yeah. I think we might get a lot of that. Oz, where do you think the mighty Reds are going to finish?
That's a horrible question, mate. After our start of the season and the expectations we all went into the season with, but I think it will come good for us, and I think we'll consolidate through the third or fourth.
No, Oz, third or fourth?
Third.
Do you know fourth yet?
No.
Bloody hell, what's changed?
Four, but third.
Nosebleed territory for Arsenal, third. Dec, first yet?
Yeah, first, yeah.
Yeah, nice one, yeah, obviously. Jas?
Fifth.
Fifth? Would you take fifth if I offered you it now?
We will fifth.
Yeah, for fifth, yeah, fifth, fair enough. And Justice, where do you think Man United are going to finish in the league this year then?
I'm going to go with where I predicted before the season, and that's third.
Third. Is your defence good enough to come third?
100%. I don't think like probably be in this league from midfield.
A bit of static there. But anyway, I'm going to close it up there, guys. Again, I appreciate you me. So Ozzy, keep still, you big doof. Thank you. I'm going to go. Thanks a lot. So Ben, thanks. Oz, thanks as always. Dino, I appreciate it. Tech, wonderful as ever. You were my favourite guest. You asked me a question. Jas, I really appreciate your time, and you're a newcomer, and you're always welcome if you want to come on again. And the same for you, Justice. You've all been great. Listeners, you've all been great. I love you all. Onwards and upwards. Let's go and head into an international break. Yay, England. Yeah, etc., etc. Lovely football, meaningless games. Let's get on with that. Anyway, thanks for listening. That was TBT Talks Live.